Welcome to the Wise Women Podcast and our debut season, Wisdom's Discovery, Finding Your Center at the Edge. Because some moments in life call us to our edge and then beckon us to expand beyond it. In this season, we dive into the shared experiences of 20 remarkable women. And through honest conversation, we explore together the moments that shape us, stretch us, undo us, and ultimately return us to ourselves. I'm Katherine Jelinek, and this is the Wise Women Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to get to hear from Sheu today. Anne is the founder and CEO of Empowered Journey and certified EOS implementer. Thank you so much for being here, Anne, and getting ready to share your story.
Hi, Katherine. It's so nice to be here with you too.
So start us out. Where does your story begin?
Yeah, so I was practicing law and thought I was pursuing my dreams as a lawyer, and was called in to help run my husband's family. So found ourselves really in the thick of running that family business. And along the way, we picked up a lot of the habits that we had seen modeled for us. And that was just work really hard, outwork the competition, put your head down, and just do what you needed to do to make it work. And what ended up happening around the same time that ended up being a huge wake up call was two really devastating things happened in our family. The first was my dad passed away. And the reason it was so devastating, not just because he passed away, but been sick for a really, really long time, like 20 years. He had been in and out of the hospital dealing with leukemia and then a bone marrow transplant. And then he had to do dialysis because of the transplant. And then he had to get a kidney transplant.
Wow.
And so really in and out of the hospital for 20 years. You know, people had asked me like, oh, he had been sick for so long. Didn't you see this coming? Didn't you know he was coming to the end? And said no. It was almost as if we had become desensitized to the hospital visits as he was in and out of the hospital so often that it was like my brain had trained itself to know like, oh, this is just another 2 or 3 weeks in the hospital. Just like last time, he'll be out soon. He'll be out next week or the next month. And his last hospital visit, he actually ended up going to the hospital in August. And we thought for sure he'd be home by September. September came and went. We thought for sure he'd be home by Halloween. Definitely he'll be home by Thanksgiving. And then when Thanksgiving came and went, we didn't even put up Christmas decorations in the hospital room because we thought for sure he'd be home by Christmas.
Yeah.
And so by the time we realized that it was too late and that he was near the end, I had let all of this time pass by, treating it as if it was just another hospital visit. And what that meant, what that looked like was I was coming to the hospital to visit him, but I was on my laptop working or I was on my phone scrolling social media. I didn't treat it like it was the last hospital visit because I just assumed that there would be more, that he would be home soon. And so I just very carelessly wasted those last just moments with my dad. So that was the first big wake up call. And, after he passed away, I just found myself in such deep grief and depression and regret and shame for how I had spent those last 4 months with my dad. And so that was the first wake up call that really just shook me. And then around the same time, we found that my in-laws were separate. And this was just incredibly devastating because we had spent, they had spent their entire lives chasing the American dream. They had been told, like every other immigrant, work hard, make money, and you'll be happy. There'll be this guaranteed happiness at the end of the rainbow, right? And so that's what they did. They put their head down. They worked really hard. They built an amazing business from what was a stall and a bazaar in South Dallas, one of the most dangerous parts of town. They were selling little knickknacks, and they grew that to 4 big box retail locations selling furniture. And so they built an amazing business, but it required so much sacrifice. They poured everything into that business. And, ultimately what ended up happening was they ended up separating. And it was really devastating for me and my husband Sonny to watch because we realized that they had done everything that they were told they were supposed to do. And we realized that we had a lot of the same habits that they had, prioritizing work over everything else, constantly making room and space for anything work related. For me, I was like, yeah, sure, we can open this new location. Yeah, we can take this new vendor. Yeah, we can help this client with this need that they have. Yeah, we can support this nonprofit. It was always yes, and yes, there's always space for anybody else that needed help. And for everybody in our personal life, family, our friends, there was a consistent no. And it
Mm.
wasn't intentional, but it was like, "No, sorry, I can't make it to that birthday because I have to work. No, sorry, I can't go on that family vacation because I can't take 2 weeks off. No, sorry, we can't go to the family reunion." Like, we were constantly missing things that were really important because we felt like we needed to prioritize work in that season. And what we found ourselves saying over and over again was, "Yeah, well, we're saying no now, but we'll make more time for it later. In this season, business needs us, so we need to pour everything into work. Once we get through this busy season, we'll have more time later. We'll prioritize family later." And the two wake up calls that I had with my dad and my in-laws, it made me realize that there's not guaranteed.
Mhm.
My in-laws probably thought they had time later together. I
Right.
definitely thought I had more time later with my dad. And so just realizing that this promise of someday, right? Like I like to say that we often punt things to someday island and think there's going to be this opportunity to visit that island someday. And for most of us, we never make it there. We punt all these important dreams and goals and aspirations and we put everything on hold as we think that's what is required in this season, right? And some of the things
Yes.
here our clients say is like, "Oh, right now, my kids need me, so I've got to put all my hopes and dreams and passions on hold, and I'll pick them back up once we're empty nesters.
Mm.
This season of growing my business, I need to just put things over to the side with my family, right? Like, my kids will understand, my wife understands, my husband understands. So just, yeah, that we're constantly punting these really important things and treating our personal life with a lack of intentionality that is so easy for us to find in our professional lives. It's so intentional. It's so easy to be intentional in our professional lives, right? We know
Mhm.
what goal we want to hit, what client we want to land, what deal we want to close, what revenue numbers we want to hit. We set those goals, we work towards them, but for some reason, it's hard for us to do that same type of work for our personal life. And so these wake up calls really helped me understand that I needed to shift things.
Yes, it's natural for clarity to be prioritized professionally, but it isn't something that we create as much space for or have normalized in our personal lives to the same degree. And it's as you were speaking about the Someday Island, I'm like, yeah, the only thing that doesn't make it to Someday Island is you. You know?
Oh my gosh, that's so true. Yes.
It's like I just never went. Or yeah, I hear that. And I love too that you shared the both waysness of it, even highlighting like parents can sometimes say, I need to just focus on my kids and I'll put my professional or other personal hopes and dreams on the shelf. And there's also that where what you're speaking to the most is like integration and balance. It's not always that, the one thing is where you need to devote. It's the combinations.
Yeah.
So then what happened? And also my question too was what year of your marriage were you in when this all occurred?
I mean, it's a weird question because we were not married yet, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
had been together for nearly 8 years. Well, when this happened, we had been together for like 8 years. And so we were living together. It was like we were married, we just were technically married.
Yes, totally. Like the devoted connection and relationship and maybe even the whole planning the wedding was getting the someday island treatment.
It actually was.
Yeah, I get that. It's a lot. Okay, but anyways, so then at that inflection point, and then what? What kind of discussions or what new decisions? What happened next?
Yeah, so Sunny and I just realized that we had been prioritizing the wrong things in our life and that we needed to make a pretty drastic change or we were also going to end up in a very unhappy place. And so the problem was we knew we wanted to make a change, but we didn't have any marriage mentors, meaning we
Hmm.
didn't know anybody that was happily married for a really long time. We knew a lot of people married a long time that were living parallel lives, kind of like roommates. And then we knew a lot of people that were divorced. But we really didn't have anybody in our life at that time that was happily married for 30, 40, 50 years that were like madly in love. And so we didn't really know what to do differently. We just knew that we wanted to do something different. So we turned to what we knew, which was how do you lead a great team? How do you build a great business? How do you strengthen organizations? And we started applying those ideas to our family. We started taking time to get really clear about what we wanted to build as a family, what goals we wanted to set, what was the big vision for our family, and we started doing all of that work that we were already doing for the business, but we just started doing it for our family as well. And so treating our family with the same level of intentionality and care as our work, and really understanding that our family team, the team that we are building in our family unit, was the most important team that we would ever build, right? I think a
It
lot of
is.
us treat our work team like the most important team, and we apply that care, intentionality, and thoughtfulness to our work team. Really, your family team's the most important team you will ever build in your entire life. So we started treating family with that kind of care and setting aside the time to do that work. And things really started to shift pretty quickly, so much so that family and friends started asking us what we're doing because we were able to start saying yes to them. They would invite us out of obligation, knowing that we would say no, and then started saying yes to things. And so they would ask us like what had changed, what had shifted
So
for
yeah.
us.
So
Yeah.
what's up over there? Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was, we started sharing with them. And what ultimately ended up happening was we shared with our friends, our families, our colleagues, these tools that we had built for our family out of survival. And we did that for nearly a decade, just sharing very casually, haphazardly, if you will. And that ultimately we ended up launching it as a business back in 2023, starting our first official workshop, renting a room, a hotel ballroom, and seeing if anyone would show up and filled that whole ballroom. People loved the work that we were doing and kept coming back for more. So now we get to share this work with other couples that want to create the space and the time to be as intentional for their family and really make sure that their family life is the life that they want to be building, and that they're creating a business that serves their family instead of what Sunny and I were doing for so long, which was our life was serving the business. Right? So just kind of turning things on its head and reprioritizing and getting clear about what the priorities actually were instead of the message that we had been given by everybody, society, friends, that business is the priority, work is the priority, prioritize this over everything else.
You're hitting on something that's so that's being discussed, but the level of internalizing is yet to be seen. I think we're all just starting. We all are becoming aware that the hustle culture and the hustle code doesn't have to be the truth. It can be the way you get there, but there's also alternatives that don't have to feel like so much stress, hard work, suffering, and sacrifice. What's hard though, I think, is as people and in their individual lives have these wake up calls like, gosh, there has to be a different way. You're right. There is a gap where there's not that structure laid out for the personal path of like, how do I begin to live that differently? And I love that you're centering it on clarity, and even clarity, which you mentioned as we began to talk before we hit record, but clarity within oneself. Can you talk us through a little bit of like where the work really begins? What is square one when a person is starting to feel this call?
So it starts with being able to answer two really simple but incredibly profound questions. Being able to answer, who are you and what do you want?
Oh my
And
God. Yeah. It's awful. Like scary.
I know, right? And they're so simple, but
Yes.
the work that is required to really be able to answer those questions is work that people often don't make the time for. Not because they don't care about their life, but life is busy and we're taught how to perform and succeed and execute and deliver in our professional life, but when are we ever taught how to lead ourselves? Really being able to answer, who are you? What are your strengths? What are your triggers? What's your big vision for your life? What do you really want? We're not ever given the tools to answer those questions. And so, really, paramount to being able to lead yourself well is being able to articulate who are you and what do you want? And the who are you question really revolves around your values. And we call these your no matter what values because a lot of times people do values work and it is aspirational. And when you think about how society does values work, they probably get on Pinterest, they print out a list of values, they pick the ones that they want to work on, they want to be, and then it's aspirational. And so with our clients, what we really help them do is get clear about what are your individual values that show up no matter what is going on in your life, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much time you have, no matter what season of life you're in, no matter what's going on at work, no matter what the values that show up that are part of your hardwiring, those values, when you can get clear about that and really be honest about that, because the aspirational piece, it's really easy to let that creep in, right? Like you want to be healthier, you say health is one of your values. You want to work on that, you want to focus on that. You print out the word health and you put it on your wall and you say, this is what's important to me. That's not your value. If it's not a no matter what, if it gets put on the back burner when things get busy, it's not one of your values, right? It's not one of your no matter what values. And so getting clear about that so that you can use that honest list to make decisions. And that clarity gives you the ability to say yes to the things that are aligned with your values and say no without guilt to the things that are misaligned.
So that's a question I have though, is when you're asking those questions like who am I and what do I want?
What?
You're forcing us in the best way to like look in the mirror and see who
Mhm.
we are, where I see both in the values and like what we see in the reflection. Like there's usually going to be a gap
Yeah.
between what's true right now and where we want to go. So how do you help guide people through that? Because I feel like there's two versions of clarity work where it's like what I'm actually oriented to right now, like maybe that, it's not health for somebody, but they want to become. That's it. It really actually matters to them. Like, or that, like what you're speaking to, like the balanced life, being able to prioritize relationships and depth and meaning and connection, the life I have right now versus, okay. So how do you bring them through that gap?
It's a great question. So first, what I want to call out is the aspirational, making sure that we don't put it in values. And there is a very, very important place for the aspirational work that belongs in your goals. So when you think about the second question, what do you want? That's really your long-term vision for your life. That's where that belongs. And that gap is really important because that gap is what fuels your energy to work towards what it is that you want. And so the who are you ultimately is your values, which are your superpowers. Leaning hard into those values helps you achieve the what do you want? And what we actually call the what do you want? Your decade dream. So when you think about your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal, for the next 10 years, what does ideal life look like in 10 years? That's your decade dream. What's your one singular goal for the next 10 years that really helps crystallize what ideal life looks like when you are being intentional about your values and saying no to things that are misaligned with your values, being intentional about your energy and your time. Ideal life 10 years from now is your decade dream. That's what you want. So when you have clarity on your values, who you are, and what you want, which is your decade dream, you can use the answers to those two questions to really help guide every single decision that you're going to make. You can filter anything through those two answers and know that if you say yes to things that are aligned with those answers, then you will be building a life that's aligned with what is most important to you. It's aligned with your values and it's aligned with where you ultimately go.
I can imagine that this is something that one needs to continue to be returning back to because I am not the same person I was, 10 years ago. Like, I mean, the achievement of some layers of the decade dream and then the nuanced shifts of what I thought I wanted. What I'd love to hear now too is how you're living all of this and then the nitty gritty day to day. You have like several kids and a
Yeah.
full, beautiful life. And you're obviously running multiple professional like businesses and opportunities. So what does this actually look like for you? Like, how is the integration touching ground? Where does it get messy and where is it like inspired? Like, give me a little picture of your life today.
So we each have an individual decade dream, me and my husband, and we also have a family decade dream. So my individual decade dream is to help 1 million people define their decade dreams.
Wow.
On this
Cool.
journey to help people live super intentionally get clear about what ideal life looks like in 10 years.
Mhm.
And then our family decade dream, because we found ourselves with no time freedom, really prioritizing work over everything else before we started doing this work for our family, we knew that our family decade dream was going to be really focused on time freedom. So our family decade dream is to take 2,000 free days together as a family. Now, free days is a term from Strategic Coach, and it's 24 hours of not working. And for me and my husband, who were very proud workaholics before, this was a insane goal. And so
Yeah,
this
because
year,
work can creep in, man.
I know. And we were really good about letting work creep in, and we would make lots of excuses for it, right? And so last year we took 200 free days together as a family. This year we are taking 220 free days together as a family. We already have that all blocked out.
Like in a
In
calendar year, you're only working for 365 minus 220.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Wow, you're taking more time off than you're not. That's
I
a
know.
flip of the script.
We are 2029 is the last year in our decade dream. So in 2029,
Okay.
we'll take 300 days to close out our 2,000 free day goal, right? But it didn't
Wow.
start this way. It's like the first year, we were like, can we just take Saturdays off? I mean, that was literally the goal. Can we just try to take
Sure.
some Saturdays off? And so we've worked our way there, and we've been very intentional about the people that we have on our team. Like we know that if and so let me go back to answering your question. Those are our two goals. This is what it looks like in real life.
Okay.
Because we have clarity on our family decade dream, and because I know I'm trying to help a million people define their decade dream, and because I've got clarity on my no matter what values, I can use those filters to understand what I should be saying yes to and what I should be saying no to. So I'll give you an example. Should we start this business? Should we buy this business? Should I say yes to sitting on the board of this nonprofit? Should I um, go on, should we, I don't know, enroll the kids in this extracurricular? Every single thing that we do, every single decision that we make gets filtered through the lens of, will it help us get closer to our decade dreams? And so I literally went back to a friend about a year ago because I had very enthusiastically said yes to buying a business with her. She approached me. She told me that this business was on the market. I'm like a raving fan of this business. And I said, yes, let's do it. We'll make such massive impact. It'll be so much fun. And then I realized it actually wasn't aligned with my dream. It would have been fun, but it would have been a shiny object that I would have accidentally said yes to. And it would have pulled me away from what was most important to me. And so because I had said yes, I don't think I would have had the confidence or the courage to go back to her and tell her no after I had already given her a yes, but for the clarity of my decade dream. And
Mm.
because I understood my decade dream, I was able to go back to her and use that. And luckily she's done our workshops. And so she knew, she was familiar with our language. And so I was able to explain like this wasn't actually aligned with my values or my decade dream. And so that no
She got it.
was a lot easier to deliver. We filter everything through the lens of those decade dreams that we've got and through our values. And so if it's not aligned, and we really have a lot more confidence now to say no. I am able to be a lot more selective about my yeses because I know what deserves a yes.
So wait, but really, how do you work only like 145 days in the year? And like, what does a real free day look like? Like, does that mean you never check your email on a free day? And do your kids go to school? And does that count? And do these count for them? Like, I'm like, tell me more about how this like goal touches ground, because I love the idea. I'm committed to creative spaciousness and not overscheduling as well.
Yeah.
And then, the energy of children, they need things too. So I'm like, really, like, give me some of this like nitty gritty. Like, what is
Yeah.
that like? What does your free day look like? And are you really planning next year to run, your business is only with 65 days?
Yeah. Next year we'll take 240 free days.
Okay, next year, 2029.
2027 we'll take 240 free days.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, every free day is different. Sometimes we're traveling, sometimes we're home, but it simply just means that we're not working. And sometimes right now, because our kids are young and still some of them are still home and then some are in elementary school. we just for the sake of ease of calculating our free days towards our decade dream, we both count it. We count the free day when Sunny and I are both not working. So the kids might be in school, we might be traveling. Last year, every year we usually do a couple of long extended trips abroad. And so it varies, but it just means that we're not working. And that was really, really hard for us. But
Yeah.
it also means that as we're adding someone to the team, as we're hiring, we have to be ruthless about who we're adding and making sure that they're going to be able to be a rock star that doesn't need to be managed, that can really stand on their own, batteries included, that will help us get to our decade dream, right? And when I'm adding someone to our Empowered Journey team, I'm thinking through the lens of, are they going to be able to help us get to a million decade dreams defined? And are they going to be able to be part of a company that's self-managing so that I can take this many free days? Because if this is somebody that I need to micromanage,
Hmm.
that's in direct conflict with what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build a life where we have a business that has massive impact, helps people live with clarity and confidence and alignment with what matters most. But I'm unwilling to do that if it means that I have to live in misalignment with what matters most, right? Like I
Hmm.
can't sacrifice what matters most to me to build a business that's helping other people do that. That would be incredibly
Yes.
hypocritical. And so we're being really ruthless about the team members that we're adding and making sure that they help us get to a million decade dreams defined. And then also the initiatives and the projects that we're working at work need to align with that. And so just having that clarity and the confidence of what really matters and leading from that place.
Wow. Okay. Free day. The real crystal clear, like, are you not answering any texts or emails on those days?
Well, sometimes, but sometimes not. It's not. I'm not. I'm not leading workshops. I'm not doing speaking engagements. I'm not. Doing podcast recordings on free days. I don't have meetings on free days. Every once in a while, if I need to, I'll pop in to email, and I'm always available by text. So if there's an emergency that comes up, but I'm pretty disconnected on a free day. I try my best to really honor the intent behind a free day and disconnect and understand. One of the beautiful things that my coach from Strategic Coach Chad Johnson, what he taught me about free days is that you don't have to earn your free days, and I think that's a lot of
Yeah.
how Sunny and I were hardwired. Card, make it to this milestone, and then you can take your free day. Then you can have your vacation. Then you can earn it. And so the reason we set this goal around free days was because not just the time freedom, but changing that mindset around needing to earn our free days and really understanding that free days is what helps us show up as our best self. It re energizes us, resets us, helps us really come back to work with calm and clarity and confidence. So, really understanding that you don't have to earn them ahead of time to take them. And so, you take them proactively so that they help energize you.
And then what does energize you? What are you doing on some of like these incredible free days that you have more than
Yeah.
you don't? What's a day in your life like when you're speaking to like a lot of us from like another planet, you know?
Yeah. So,
Just so curious.
there's I would say there's different tiers of free days, right? My coach, Chad, he talks about like gold free days, silver free days. Like there's different
Okay.
levels that you can have. And I'm not as rigid around them, but a free day could be anything from what we did 2 weeks ago. Sunny and I went on a scuba diving trip and we were in Roatan. And so that I had like a dream free day because we went scuba diving and we found a seahorse, which I've been looking for like a decade, right? Like I literally was crying underwater. I could have just sat and looked at that seahorse until I was out of oxygen. But I mean, to me, that was a dream day because I found something that I had been looking for and it was so beautiful and cute. And um, I was just like giddy with joy. So that was like a dream free day. We went scuba diving and then we hung out on the beach and we ate dinner. We had a dinner date. That was a dream. Not all free days are, on the beach. Like sometimes Sunny and I are at the house together and sometimes we're hanging out with the kids. Sometimes we're traveling abroad with the kids. Every day is different, but the intent is that I'm doing things that really energize me, help me get back to my best self.
Yeah. I hear that. I see that. This is a remarkable story because I think that the extent that you've taken it is really, really unique and it's an expander for everybody listening. I know that because when you see an expander is when you see someone who's breaking through a limit of something to an extent that you haven't seen it yet, you're like, whoa. And then you can resonate your own frequency with the way that would express for you. But I think what you're doing and how you're prioritizing from connection and from that intentional personal dream is remarkable. So if you were to summarize your message to listeners and to readers, what is it?
And I think just understanding that if you want to live an intentional life, it starts with answering 2 questions. Who are you and what do you want? And when you can start from those 2 answers and lead from those 2 answers, then you will be able to really design and live your ideal life and make sure that you are designing a professional life that's aligned with those answers and design a personal life that's aligned with yours. Because otherwise, without that clarity, what often happens is drifting towards whatever is screaming the loudest, right? Whatever definition of success we inherited from somebody else, towards a role that we unintentionally said yes to, drifting towards whatever fire at work is exploding and needs your attention. And you'll end up being pulled in a million different directions, feeling a sense of overwhelm and really, if you can lead from understanding who you are and what you really want, you'll be living a life that's truly aligned with what's most important.
Thank you. I think you've just thrown down a magnificent challenge to anyone listening and to those who are lucky enough to read this chapter. So just wow, very impressed and impacted by this. And I really appreciate you sharing your story and giving us the peek into what it really looks like to be living into a decade dream with a lot of intention, even in the midst of running multiple businesses and having young children. So it's a good wake-up call for listeners.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. All right, everyone, what an episode. And you get to look forward to more next time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the Wise Women podcast. You can find the book, Wisdom's Discovery, Finding Your Center at the Edge, on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. And keep listening to the wisdom that your life is offering you.